We are live with another Cafe Crash. I'm your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined with the amazing Karl Siebrecht of 35 Left Studios. How are you, sir?
Doing well, and I am vertical unlike you.
That's true. I am very horizontal. I've got some new hardware. Don't mind the bedroom, but I don't know if everybody can see that, but that's pretty fun. Got new external framework to help me kind of be pieced together. So yeah, so now I'll be doing these shows from bed.
Just like John and Noko.
Yeah, there you go. Well, if only I could have so noble of a cause. Hey, we just want peace and love and all that, right?
Exactly.
I just want coffee and my new robotic foot.
Well, everything's on order. It should be here quickly, with Prime and everything. So.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for checking in on that, Karl.
Yeah, you bet.
Karl, tell everybody that's watching a little bit about yourself. How where you came from and how you got into film production.
Well, I got into production in general in a very backwards way. When I was in what is now middle school, used to be called junior high school, I was hired to shoot the sporting events that the school was doing with the new technology of a smaller video camera sold to consumers. And I continued to do that for the high school that I worked for, and I worked for a studio at the college that I attended. And when I got out of school, I found that I was actually going to be more paid more to continue with that line than what my degree was in, which is in electronics. And so I made the decision to continue to do it. It was really never something I sat down and said, I want to be a filmmaker when I grow up. It ended up being, I grew up and I said, hey, look at this, I'm a filmmaker. I've never, and I shouldn't say filmmaker, that's a term that I don't believe I fall into. I've very rarely, if ever, worked on film, but I have worked on quite a few television and feature-length productions, as well as corporate video and the like. And of course, sports has always been a very large part of my career.
Okay, man, that's how long. And ever since I've known you, you've always been working at the sound stage, and it's only until like the recent 6-7 years that you've really taken over and made it your own, right?
Correct. 35 Left started out as a studio that was built and operated by a company that I actually worked with as a client, and then went to work for as an employee. And I went to work for them in 2001, and they ended up moving to another location, and studios are a little hard to pack up and move across town. So it became an opportunity for myself and the person that I was working with to run the operations of the studio to actually take the facility over as our own business. And we've been doing that since 2015. And I always like to say that we're living the dream as well as the nightmare of owning the company that we used to work for.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And your partner is Jackie McNair in this adventure?
Yep, and she, as well as other members of her family, and I go back with the former owners of the studio, literally back to the early '90s. So there is a great deal of history amongst all of us, including Philip Garvin, who started the facility in the first place. And like I said, it was one of those deals where you turn around and you blink, and you've been in the industry for pushing 37, 38 years, and like I said, never really planned on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you seem to have gone into it, not only as a money making venture, but also on more of the technical aspects. Do you find that that level of expertise really lends itself well to some of the creatives that come into your space?
I like to think so. I've always considered myself to be far more of a technically or engineering minded person than a creative. Um,
Mhm.
but I do have a very diverse set of skills, as
Yeah,
well as does Jackie. And our ability to make things come together within our studio spaces, so that the clients don't have to even address them, I think leaves a great deal of opportunity for people to be creative because they don't have to flop to the other side of their brain and try to remember to, turn on the lights and, which instruments are we going to use and that kind of thing.
right.
So I hope to say that, to correctly say that we do help out.
Nice. The now I've heard that the soundstage, which was originally created to accommodate like the Shining TV miniseries back in the '90s. Is that the case?
It's not actually the case. It was
Oh,
created as initially to be, the potential for moving a lot of production out of Hollywood and Los Angeles. What you're seeing now in Georgia and Santa Fe markets and others, is what the studio was originally designed to do, was to try to pull some of those larger productions out of LA and into an area of the country that people were more interested in living in, and the cost structures were much less expensive, and the like. We did do a mini series remaking the story of The Shining, in the mid '90s, but that was not the reason the
okay.
facility was built. But it was one of the first really big projects that were done.
Nice. The yeah, if I remember right, I mean that production took up yeah, because it's out of an airplane hangar. For those that aren't familiar, 35 35 left is located in the center of this the old Stapleton Central Park area. Um,
It's basically an airport hangar that used to be on Stapleton International Airport.
yeah,
And when The Shining was produced, it was actually, um, shot throughout the entire hangar. The
right.
studio that we operate now is actually a soundstage that was built as a building in the side of that hangar. So it doesn't take up as large of a footprint as was used for The Shining. But whereas the rest of the hangar space is just raw warehouse space, with no accommodation for cooling or sound insulation or anything like that, the studio was purpose built from the ground up to accommodate large scale production.
That's cool. It's a building within a building.
Correct. And it gives us uh, the ability to have air conditioning that is silent, that can run during production and keep everybody cool. It gives us a lot of sound insulation. For the most part, you never hear anything outside of the walls of the studio, in the studio. Um, and because it used to be a hangar that accommodated large business jets, there was a great deal of electrical power already uh, at the building. And so we were able to take our portion of that for the studio, and give us plenty of power to operate our lighting and everything like that. I always like to say we have enough power to run pretty much every lighting instrument that we have several times over.
Nice. Well, redundancy is key.
That's it, exactly. And you
Yeah.
never know, next year, instead of LEDs being the popular thing, maybe they'll go the other direction and have something that really sucks up the juice, and we're going to be on top of the world.
Yeah, like a pacemaker. I don't know
Exactly.
how that's going to give off light, but it sounds neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
just good made up crap.
yeah, no, it's a very well built facility. It was very well thought out before designing it, and it was really, um, unlike most of the places, honestly, around the world that do production. This was actually a facility built to do what it's doing.
Nice. Yeah, the cool thing about it too, is it's so interchangeable. I mean, you've got really tall ceilings. You can do feature length, productions in there.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what the regulation is. Is it like 26, feet or less?
We say it's 21 and a half feet to the grid that supports the lights.
Oh, okay, okay. But since I've worked there as like property manager, you I've seen like you had that documentary, yeah, casting of Jean Benet, I think it's called,
Uh,
um, was shot there. I mean, you've housed some amazing productions.
yeah, and I don't want to try to name drop, and I really don't want to risk the anonymity of our clients, but we have worked on many feature films. We've worked on several commercials that aired during the Super Bowl. We've done probably 10 to 15,000 live interviews from that facility. It is a list of clients as well as people appearing on camera that is so long that I don't even remember most of it. But for the most part, we try to overlook those aspects of it. That's the things that people want to talk about at cocktail parties, but we
Yeah,
try to maintain our professionalism and say, we're a factory to make television and film and video, and the way that we do that is important. The people that are involved in it, we'll leave the glory to them to receive those accolades.
right. Well, that's very noble of you. I think a lot of a lot of those accolades also need to go to you because it's your house.
And it's true. Um, it's difficult to understand unless you've been there, but most of the people that have talked to me about it say that it is a very comfortable, very um, giving environment. And I feel as comfortable sitting in the studio, either working on a project or working on my computer, as I do sitting in my home office like I am today. It is not a glitzy, Hollywood esque type of environment. It is a room designed to be a factory to create creative products.
Right. Oh, that's cool. It's a fantastic incubator,
Yeah,
for those projects to come to fruition. The
and being in that comfortable environment, I like to think that that makes everybody's jobs that much easier and that much more comfortable, and allows technical people to be technical and creatives to be creative.
when a production is coming to you, you commonly what are they looking for in terms of space and resources?
Um, Typically, I'll be honest, they want 10 times more than what we have of everything. Uh,
Okay.
I always say that productions fill the space, and they also fill the accommodation of available resources. You could have a very small one camera shoot, and you'll have as much gear spread out over the floor of the studio as you do if you have something on the level of like a feature film.
Mhm.
Um, Little things are the things that usually always get us. Everybody wants more tables and sandbags and things like that, but they always seem to manage with what we have.
Yeah.
It's something that it's always easier to grab one more than to better use the resources that you have. And our facility, I think, just as a general uh, way of operating, tends to mirror that very much. And I do it myself, and I'm very much a stickler about not doing it. But it's all part of accommodating the process. If we have the resources that you need, and you can get that resource without thinking about it, or running around looking for another one or something, it makes that machine work that much better.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. The you know with that too, like what are sometimes ends up being the common hangups when people come looking for the space and they really don't know what they want. Do you have to really navigate and guide them?
Yeah, very much so. As a former producer working in that space, I
Mhm.
feel that with the amount of time I've had in there working on both sides of the client relationship, that I end up being almost like a co-producer on a lot of the production. Jackie does as well. She does a lot of work with people before they actually come in the door. And probably the most common theme is people are just not as prepared as they think that they are before they come in the door. And we try to help them out, and we try to get them through some of the stumbles,
Mhm.
try to make it so they're more time and money efficient.
Yeah.
And in the end, it always works out much better than if we, basically just stood back and watched them fail. And in the end, they're happier clients for it as well. Uh, the biggest thing that I always try to emphasize to people is, uh, you know, working in the studio is like cooking. You don't just cook. You decide
Yeah.
what you're going to make. You got to make a list of ingredients. You got to go to the store and buy them. You got to cut them up and put them in those little bowls for some reason. And then you walk in the front door of the studio and you can
Yeah.
start cooking. But if you don't do all of that preparatory work beforehand, you're going to be just as bad off in the studio as you would be in the kitchen.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. You know, prior to COVID, uh, Colorado film in general was not really, on a national level all that well considered. But I know you've been, with the studio and so many more entities at the property too have been, continually, working and doing productions and hosting a lot of different projects. What how has it changed, after COVID?
Um, the first thing I would say to that is I don't think we're after COVID yet, but I do
Right.
think we're
True.
emerging. Um, and to throw another analogy out, um, we have never in the history of electronic entertainment been in a period of time where more people are consuming more content than ever before with less being made.
Right.
So what we're finding as the pandemic starts to thaw, and in the case of the city and county that our studio is located in, as of yesterday, we now have very little, if any, restrictions that we did before as far as occupancy and mask wearing and that sort of thing. Um, I think that we are starting to see a wave of production coming that is going to be probably unprecedented. We have a year, if not several months beyond that, where you have a lot of people at home writing scripts, making deals, trying to put their creative juices to work.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of need financially for content to be developed and for people to go back to work and such. We're already starting to see a significant increase in our amount of usage of the studio, and in the end of the day, that means our bottom line as well. And I expect that by the middle of summer, I think most of the people involved in production work of any kind are going to be starting to cry for a vacation.
Mhm.
It's going to be very, very busy, I think, and it's going to be that way for an extended period of time, I think. Well beyond the end of the year, I could see this being a cycle for several years.
Yeah, yeah. For the last month or so, I mean, I've been seeing you at the studio like day in and day out. You've been there before I am, and I mean, it's pretty easy to be there well after I've left.
That's
But
not hard. Getting there before you is tough.
yeah, but I mean, you've been pulling that off. You got to be like, working like 16-hour days. It seems like.
I'm honestly not. The level that we were working at before the pandemic, um, I think I was averaging between 95 and 100 hours a week of
Wow.
work. Um,
Jeez.
I've had weekends this year. I haven't had weekends in several years.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that what we're seeing as far as the uptick now is a very healthy cycle because it is, um, times that are manageable. We're not, killing each other in trying to get all this stuff done. Um, the other side of it as well is we're starting to see our clientele change. We're seeing clientele that are less interested in doing, two 20-hour days in a row. They're going to do more of, a 5-day week where you're doing 8 or 10-hour days.
Right.
The other thing is, in our busiest times, we're busy 7 days a week. These days, we're averaging maybe 3 to 5, which is great because it's uh, a much better usage of the facility than during the pandemic. But again, we're not at the level where everybody is just so work weary that it's no longer fun and it's no longer creative. It's just punching the time clock.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned, at the property, there's a lot of other entities. I mean, we've got other production companies. You've got Barbizon Lighting and A Camera, and of course, other tenants like Access TV on site.
Right.
But you guys seem to all be able to work together and support each other in some capacities pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, I think we're all driven in the same direction for the same cause,
Yeah.
and I think that the draw of our business as well as the other resources available brought some of the others into the building because they wanted to be a part of that environment and that collective.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, we don't have a lot of overlap. We don't have a lot of uh, companies doing the same work that other companies are doing. So it ends up being a very symbiotic relationship amongst all the companies. And because of that, because there's no worry about competition or any of that kind of thing, it's easy for us to come together and work together to make a campus, as I like to call it, for making production happen and the resources necessary instead of running all over town to get it done. We're pretty close to having everything on site that is necessary, literally within the confines of the one building.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is that something that's very unique to Denver or to Colorado? Do you think?
It's unique now. I know there were facilities in the past that tried to do similar, and I know that it's a model that is definitely done elsewhere in the country. And I was about to say in LA, but we're getting to the point that LA is no longer the hub of production, so we have
Right.
to look beyond that. I think that it is unique for Denver, at least currently, and it's something that we're starting to see a lot of people appreciate and work with all of the companies collectively together because of it. It's drawing people in.
Yeah. You and I have had those conversations where, you know, talking about the film industry in Colorado versus and the rest of the world, where it seems like so many people want to attract bigger outside productions to kind of bring more attention to what's going on here. But I thought you've always had an interesting philosophy. It's like, well, I think you just need to do something relevant here and make it, kind of have relevance outside of Colorado.
Yeah, I think what I usually say is if everybody that at some point in the last couple of years has said, I wish we could attract this film project or this
Right.
project, would just come together with the people that they know in the production circles and put together a program of their own, whether it's a video project or an independent film or even television or feature length production. Everybody would have plenty of work to do. We'd have plenty of opportunities to be creative in Colorado and start becoming more of a center for production. We do have things that will always impact us. Will make it difficult for Colorado to grow much more than what we would like it to because of tax incentives and other incentive programs. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. The other side of it is, I think there's a big emphasis on film production. We want to work on the next Dan Crosier film, and
That's unfortunate. I feel so bad for you for having said that.
and we don't want to look at any other aspects of our industry. We have so many more financial resources and people's time going in to try to attract film production than we do, for example, video game production, which eclipses film production these days. Television production is something that could be done very easily in Colorado, and just you know, YouTube projects or corporate films, or any of the things that are far less glamorous and far less interesting to talk about at the cocktail party are the things that will keep people busy and keep facilities working. And my perspective on it has always been that I'd rather do the dirty, dangerous, and dull side of things than get all the glitz and glamour of working on the feature films, because they have their own pitfalls. They have their own problems on working on projects of that size and of that magnitude. So why are we constantly trying to attract them? I think, from my perspective, I would love to take a lot of those resources and redivert them into something that makes more sense for Colorado.
Yeah. This is deviating quite a bit, but because of your involved history, with the studio, and then of course with working with Phil Garvin and everything, you and I have talked about what a terrible film Avatar is. Sorry for anybody out there watching, but I love the idea that you as an individual, you'll sit there and try and figure out what the new technology of the time is, and just kind of reverse engineer it. What was your approach with 3D, the use of the 3D technology back then? Because that was just like 10 years ago.
Yeah, myself and one of our engineers at Access TV, we're kind of given the urge to try to figure out 3D, what it takes to produce it, and kind of get our minds wrapped around it. And I don't really do things on a small scale a lot of the times. So we both jumped in with both feet, and we ended up probably spending 20 or 30 hours a week for many, many months, literally either learning about 3D technology and how it works, or actually putting it into practice by setting up scenarios in the studio or even outside of the studio, and trying to figure out the technical aspects that were needed to do quality production. So, I still have a closet full of books that I bought at the time, where all of the technologies that were being used during this most recent incarnation of 3D were basically developed back in the 1920s and 30s. When they did a resurgence of 3D in the 50s, I think it was, and then the 70s, they didn't do so much development as just copying what was done before. So myself and the engineer became very versed in technical aspects, the mathematics behind interocular distances and the distance from the lens to the subject, and all the different creative ways that you could use the 3D technology to tell the story. And what Hollywood, quote unquote, ended up doing is they took what was potentially a very glamorous new technology to tell that story, a new tool in the toolbox, to make it so that you could tell that story visually so much more impactfully, and just turned it into a gimmick. They did exactly what they did back in the 50s and the 70s. And it was very disappointing to see that, because having learned so much about how to do it properly, to see what the larger movies were doing with the technology was, like I said, heartbreaking. It was just, it was like, using a screwdriver to pound a nail. It was just the wrong way to use that tool.
Well, yeah. How would you, use something like 3D technology in order, for compelling storytelling?
Well, again, I consider it a tool in the toolbox. If you're making a decision as a DP, do I want to push in on the subject's face to create a dramatic effect? You're using the zoom portion of the lens, or you're trucking the camera in, or dialing the camera in order to make that work. That's a tool being used to get a specific look to evoke a certain emotion. And 3D is the same thing. 3D is a tool that you would use when it is appropriate to use to create that visual effect to create the emotion. And when I say emotion, I'm not talking, excuse me using my web camera, but, would you like a glass of water?
Right.
It's a gimmick when you do that. If you use it in the proper way to actually show that that glass of water has, depth to it and clarity to it, then it's a tool. So without giving a specific example, that's how I would use 3D technology. One of the things that you can do with it that I've never seen anybody on a larger scale use is miniaturization. And if you're curious about that, it's, I'm sure, available on YouTube with some examples and such. Go look at it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I've got a lot of friends that that utilize that approach, those techniques.
Yeah, I mean, if you take out all the tools, our studio is nothing but a big room.
Right.
All of the tools that you use to make those creative decisions work creatively that actually make the products that we create worth watching and interesting to watch. And right next to my hammer and screwdriver, that's where I'm going to hang 3D.
Yeah. Have you ever been asked by a production or a filmmaker, for some very obsolete technology or something that's just not even at the moment fathomable?
I don't know that I could go that far.
Okay.
Having been in the industry as long as I have, I predate VHS. So I have engineering knowledge and operational knowledge of equipment, especially, and techniques that a lot of the people that I work with on a daily basis have no understanding of. And so some of those things do come into play from time to time.
Yeah.
It is not something that I would say is earth shattering or, something that's going to make or break a project, but our technology in general moves very, very quickly. And I think it's accelerating and moving more quickly than it was even when I was first in the industry. So having a working knowledge of, coming up on 4 decades of the technology and the techniques and such, there's a lot to pull from.
Nice.
Stuff that is being done today that everybody thinks is, the latest clever thing to do has probably been done 2 or 3 times before. It was just long enough ago they didn't realize that.
Yeah. What as far as like new technologies, is there anything that you're working with or that's upcoming that you're really jazzed about?
I can't say that there is, but I always try to keep an open mind as well as a open eye to new technologies. I think the biggest thing that I see coming about, and it's nothing new, but it's going to be used in new ways, are cameras. The webcams we're using right now, the cameras on your phone. Think back. I believe it was 2000. Yeah, I believe it was 2007 was the first iPhone.
Okay.
I have vehicles older than that. I have underwear older than that.
Yeah.
So, what's going to come in the next couple of years as far as the potential quality, not to mention miniaturization and usage of cameras, I think is going to really blow people's minds. Instead of having the one main camera that's going to be on your subject shooting it, you could have 50 drones floating around on a pre-programmed program, and you could have a bunch of GoPro style cameras that are fixed in how many of her, different locations with different focal lengths and lenses, all of them catching pickup shots and B-roll and such while you're doing the actual production. And I think that's a real possibility. It's already starting to become more and more likely for you to see smaller cameras being used in conjunction with bigger ones.
Yeah, I think yeah, you certainly see that to some extent with like I think you know like newer use of 3D technology and then also like motion capture, like
Yeah.
especially with video games, setting up those multiple cameras to catch all the different angles to make that video game animation that much more easier. Um,
And that reiterates the point that I made before is, you know, for you to create a character in a video game, a lot of those are done using motion capture technology.
right.
And with video games eclipsing the film industry right now, you would think that it would be rampant use of a place like our studio to do that motion capturing. We've never done any of it
Wow.
because our industry is just so not focused in that direction.
Well, why do you think that is? Because you see with like animated films, there's that overlap. It's very obvious, and then when Disney does like the reimagining of Lion King live action, but it's all animated.
Right.
Uh, you know, I mean they're using that technology.
Yeah, I think that it's going to start breaking down the walls, the barriers between that industry and television and film production. It's blurring the lines now, and I think that it's just a matter for the need to arise or for someone to realize that the capability is actually there and not needed to be created.
Yeah.
In Colorado, I'll be honest, I don't know where to start. I don't know who to reach out to, and I don't know who to invite into the studio. It's something that I think is going to be the future of our industry, is that those walls coming down and production in general becoming more of a concerted effort amongst the different disciplines.
Right. Well, anybody that's out there watching that's works in that technology, reach out to Karl.
There you go.
We're all about bringing together great minds to make amazing stuff and art.
That's what we do. We help people make creative endeavors, and if someone wants to reach out with a use of our studio that is beyond what we have offered or considered in the past, we're always open to it.
Yeah. Have there been projects that you've put together and helped foster in your space in the soundstage that you're just in complete awe of how that happened?
As far as how it came together,
Right.
um, I don't think so. I don't get awed that often. um, it's interesting sometimes how people end up finding us. We always have this big grandiose idea that, if we advertise in the Variety 411 or, have a national commercial playing or something, that's the way to reach our customers. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we're found out through Google, through our website. We're averaging right now, I think our last metric was somewhere north of 8,000 hits a month on our website.
Oh,
so
wow.
There's either a lot of people lost looking at our map or are interested in what we're doing, one of the two.
Hopefully it's the latter.
Yeah. So our advertising has always been very limited in scope because we don't really have a target audience. So the way people find us are usually the less grandiose ways. It's been very interesting, some of the projects that we've done. We've done, in addition to our normal production, we've hosted as a rehearsal space to a very well-known band. We've done several corporate events. Recently, we've done quite a few what we're calling corporate event replacements, which are done electronically through Zoom technologies and others,
right.
But cool. On a scale that is just amazing. We're talking LED monitor walls that are bigger than houses, that are showing all of the people that are taking part in the project remotely from home, and then seeing the video come up as we go to the packages. Like we said before, the TV and the feature films have all been very interesting. We've done some crazy things. Several years ago, we hosted a group that was showing off a product that you could hose down your house before a forest fire enters the area. And by doing so, it virtually guaranteed that your house would not burn to the ground. So we did these very large scale burns, showing that the product did not catch on fire. We've done the same thing with appliances that put out fires in kitchens. We've done some people showing off scientific experiments and such, where there were explosives or there was fire or something like that. And all these things were very exciting to be a part of and watch. We did them all in a very controlled manner. We had people, professionals on site to make sure that everybody was safe. But it was very interesting to stand in our studio and watch some of these activities go on. It never ceases to amaze me what comes in the door. It is always different. It's always exciting. And a lot of it opens new doors to new possibilities.
As long as it's not pornography.
Believe it or not, we have a rider in our insurance where we can't do pornography. So
okay.
I'm afraid your viewers are out of luck. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, drats. Well, they're changing the channels now, Karl. Jeez. Sex sells, buddy.
I completely turned everybody off right there.
Sean was just mentioning they're using Unreal Game Engine in the production of the new Avatar movies. Definitely the line between the two industries are blurring.
I'm not familiar with the technology, but I do agree, obviously, that the lines are blurring. And one of the things that sent us to the point of taking the studio over as our own business in the first place is, if you look across all of the technologies and all the resources that are used in production in general, about the only thing that has any kind of true longevity, it's not going to be replaced by a new technology or someone's new idea, is space in which to produce.
Okay.
And so, as that becomes more and more relevant in a technology world, I think it's going to be just a more robust industry to be a part of, and just the physical space of production.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is it's a safe space. You've got professionals that you're working with, so anybody who's kind of green can come in and have that time and resources to really explore what they're doing.
Yeah, most of the productions we have in that are larger than a few people, we usually have somebody that has been hired as part of the crew that might be a little on the greener side, might even be the first time they're ever on set. And there is nothing that replaces experience of being on set. I've helped quite a few people, take their first steps in our industry, and all of the technicians that I work with are very open to helping people out and helping new people learn their skills. Eventually, we're all going to be in a place other than on set, and somebody needs to come along behind us and learn the stuff and replace the technicians to be able to continue this process into the future. So everybody's open to helping people out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What would you recommend for new TV and film production people coming in and looking to participate in the film culture of Colorado?
I hate to say what I'm going to say, but it's the truth, and that is probably the last place that you want to look for new opportunities is with us. It's very difficult for us to bring on our own new people onto a set because of liability problems. The liability of not just maybe tripping and breaking something, but also in incurring additional time and cost in the production. So the typical way that people get into our industry is they find a production or a production company, or even a technician that is looking for a production assistant or someone to help them out on a future production, that you could come in as an entry level person and with the supervision of the experienced people start to learn the craft and learn the resources and be able to make a contribution without the liability associated with it. So the best thing to do is to reach out and find somebody that you can mentor with, and we'd be happy to help put those connections together. There is no real direct resource that I know in which to do that, but that's how I would go about it.
Yeah, and you kind of touched up on a little bit of this too, but with the studio and with your skill set and everything too, it's a beautiful marriage. Seeing engineering and art come together for the storytelling capabilities that you guys have been able to present.
Yeah, I think I live in a very unique world in that I am so extremely left-brained that I had to learn how to be right-brained. And on a daily basis, I get to flex both of those muscles, if you will, in order to make things come together. I dare say that there are a few people in the world that can do the creative side of lighting design and director of photography or any of the more creative sides of it, and then step right in a moment's notice and fix something that isn't working, and solder components onto a PC board and run cabling to make an audio mixer work and such. So I had the opportunity to be able to create both of the hemispheres of my brain to work. And so now I have the great experience of being able to put that into play.
With all your years of experience too, have you been able to produce your own original productions?
Yeah, I actually was a staff producer for 16 years, starting when I was fresh out of school. And like I said before, that's what actually brought me to our facility in the first place. I was a client of our facility, and we are, when I say we, there are other people involved as well, producing our own original content now as we speak. It's on a limited basis because everybody that's working on it are working on other projects or have other jobs, but it's something that we find currently to be very relevant, and we're hoping to have to the market within the next couple of months.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that when I'm actually able to see you in the physical self.
Well, and yeah, that's something that we look forward to in general. But you were also supposed to be a part of this project, so
that's right.
We're gonna have to bring all of our equipment to your house and shoot you in bed, I guess.
Wow, when you say shoot me in bed, that sounds very Godfather.
It does sound a little final. I guess I should say produce your segment.
Okay, there you go. I guess that's a little bit better.
Maybe we'll have to rewrite your part so that it can accommodate your new technologies.
Yeah. Just call it. Maybe my character will be Danny McGilly One Leg.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll be fun.
I'll throw it out to our writers and see what they can come up with.
Excellent. Karl, for everybody that's watching, we've got your website streaming. It's 35leftstudios.com. Is there any other place that they can reach out and see about hiring your skill set?
All the information in which to come in contact with us is on the website. We try to keep it very simple so that it is navigatable, as opposed to try to be, fancy and quote unquote modern. So you shouldn't have any problems finding it. I also encourage anybody that just has general questions that you could always email us at the info at email, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. But yeah, that's how I would reach out to us. We do have that in place, not only to make it easy for you to contact us, but so that we can moderate it the best we can.
Very cool. Karl, thanks for spending your afternoon with us and coming on and talking about all the cool things that you do and are involved with and about the studio. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great seeing you since the first time you fell off a wall. I'm happy to see that you're okay and soon to be on the mend.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Dan and I go back a couple of decades now, so I'm good to see my friend doing better.
Thanks, Karl. Hang around for a few minutes after we sign off.
Will do.
And then for everybody that tuned in, thanks so much for tuning in. This episode is brought to you by Mutiny Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure it's caffeinated. And everybody at home, thanks for tuning in. Be good, help each other out. And, always remember, we love you. Have a good one. Have a good night. All right. Bye.